My name is Jeff Goldberg. I'm a long-term industry analyst. I ran the insurance practice at Datos Insights, and I was at Novarica and Celent before that. These days, I'm an independent advisor and run a community group for insurer CIOs. I am really excited to be talking with Dan Woods, the founder and CEO of Socotra, and we're going to be talking about the present and future of AI in insurance. I know you've heard a lot about AI this week, but I think this is going to be a really insightful conversation. I'd like to start out, Dan, by asking you to introduce yourself, but specifically talk about your credentials and history with AI and why we should be listening to you.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'm the founder of Socotra, and of course, if I'm talking about running an AI, well, it's not an AI company. We do AI, but we're doing this for 12 years. Core policy administration, if anyone's not familiar with us, but that's not our topic today. People usually assume I'm some private equity bro who just got into AI last week because I lost all my money trading crypto. I've actually been doing AI for a little while now. I started in I guess, 2004 when I went out for my master's in Stanford Computer Science, AI concentration. And at the time, I was actually doing computational biology. And as I like to say, if you think using AI to analyze your terms and conditions document is a big haul, try using it to examine the entire human genome. But my research lab there, we had a publication that we used AI to win best paper in the largest computational biology conference in the world. And it today has over 800 citations. You can find it on Google Scholar. But I've been doing AI I've been thinking about it for a little while. Back then, it was a very different operation. You kind of had to spoon feed it the data and get relatively simple results. Now it's like you can tell it, not only can it, it can cook and even hunt its own food, so to speak. And it's really, evolved quite a bit. It's been quite a thing to watch.
That's great. And so would you say you brought that to Socotra? Would you consider Socotra an AI native platform?
I can be contrarian on that one. Absolutely not. AI native, it's so often there's so much smoke and mirrors sometimes around IT in this industry, and misuse of terms. Like people say something cloud and it still has version numbers. It's like, okay, what version of LinkedIn are you running? What version of Gmail are you running? I mean, that's not cloud. And AI native means that it was built with AI from the beginning, and we were founded in 2014. There wasn't a whole lot of AI to include, and also we're doing policy administration. It's a glorified database and calculator. I mean, it's a bit more than that. It's a lot of organizational things. But the point is, I'll express it this way. If a vendor says they're AI native and they're doing a core, run, because either they're lying to you or they're a 2-year-old company.
All right, so as we move forward into the future, what does AI look like? I don't mean 20 years from now. I need the next 4 or 5 years. What does AI look like for insurers? I don't necessarily just mean core systems, but obviously that's a significant percentage of where insurers focus their technology.
Okay, and I'll try to get specific here because this is where AI is going there's so many lofty ways to answer that. I'm going to be really specific. I see 3 ways in which AI helps the insurance industry. 3 different categories. One is helping with IT cost and velocity. That's going to be, I was guessing go further in detail if you want each of these, but that's going to be, of course, vibe coding is the talk of that, and also extremely dangerous. Insurers right now are in a difficult spot with vibe coding. It's like, as I say, too dangerous to use, too powerful to ignore. And that's something I'm actually really passionate about, is figuring out how can you get the maximum productivity gain and velocity gain from AI for software development without sacrificing safety, without taking on any additional risk. And there's a lot of things you can do. I actually wrote a paper on that recently you can find on our website. Second category is making smarter business decisions. And this is the realm where insurtechs are thriving right now, because it's relatively quick and easy to stand up a company that can analyze data and give you an insight behind an API. So maybe I just ask, oh, tell me about the history of the property at this address, or here's an application, tell me the fraud risk, give me a score. And it can look at various sources, pull them together and so forth, look at internal sources, external sources and so forth, and all of that. And it's really, it's a point solution. And these can be very powerful. And these are where there's a lot of quick wins right now, because you can plug these in relatively easily. They can connect to legacy. Obviously, if you have a modern platform, you can connect to them in about 20% of the time. But maybe it takes us 1 month. It takes legacy 6 months or something like that. Point is, it's still possible, and you can achieve those benefits. The third category, which I'm personally most excited for, is the third category of AI application that we'll be seeing is AI used to increase the productivity and accuracy of the insurance worker. And this is where we're headed, is a world where, for the insurance worker, that's going to be the underwriter, customer service rep, claims manager, the AI basically does their homework for them and says, here's what I've done, here's what I propose, do you approve? And their work will be simply approving and handling the occasional corner case. And that realm is, there are a lot of people trying to bolt that onto legacy. I think that's a failed path for a variety of reasons. We can get that if you want, but that's going to be extremely powerful realm.
All right, I feel like I want to ask you several questions about all three categories you just brought up, but let's start with the vibe coding. I work with a lot of CIOs, and that is a major concern from the IT executives I speak with in the industry, because even if insurers who have somewhat strict rules on the use of AI and how they're rolling it out, the reality is they know that their software developers are likely using vibe coding whether or not it's officially approved by the organization. So knowing that it's here and it is being leveraged, how do insurance companies get a handle on it and do it safely and use it to improve what they're deploying rather than adding risk?
Yeah, well, right now we're getting is, I call it like the Napster effect, when there's, cheating has so much benefit that people who are self-interested in their own productivity and a demanding boss and having to get through all this work and whatever else, a certain number of them are going to cheat. Just like a certain number of college students are going to download a pile of MP3s until Spotify comes along and makes it so it's like, okay, it's not free, but we've made it so convenient and easy and safe and so forth that no one really thinks about doing it any other way. And that's what insurers need to find. That's what we're finding. That's not just insurers, that's everyone. We're a software company. We use AI to help develop faster, and depending on what we're doing, we see different levels of productivity gain, because some things, I can get into what things have higher productivity gain than others. But what we have to be very certain of is that we understand what they can and can't do. We communicate clearly what they can and can't do, and we're watching very, very closely. Because, just speaking from my own experience with engineers can spot BS really, really quickly. And they can spot if the organization they're working for is getting in their way. And when there's an obvious solution, and they can see the obvious solution, and they are prevented from doing it, that drives them up a wall. And a lot of them will cheat. A lot of them will, it's just a killer for morale. They're going to find other jobs and so forth. They want to be empowered. They want to use the best tools. So it's on us as the leadership in a software company. The same is true for insurance IT. You've got to stay up on what that tooling is, and what is the threshold that you can take it to safely. And then the engineers they can see it. They know more than you do. They know more. My engineers know more. I mean, I was kind of badass back in the day, but I haven't written code in about since I was at Palantir 12 years ago as an engineer there. They can see through it. And it's on us to keep up with it and give them the tooling so they don't feel that we're getting in their way.
Okay, and the other thing that I think, same topic, the other concern is shadow IT, right? Suddenly you're bringing these tools that let non-technical people write code. And you see examples in a lot of insurers where someone in underwriting builds an app that people start using. That has a completely different, it has the same risks as engineers writing AI code, but it's coming from non-technical users, not part of centralized IT. How do you get your hands around that as an
I
organization?
don't know if I call it the same risks. I think the risks are a little different. I feel this is something we see in every generation. A generation coming of age, it was Visual Basic that convinced a generation of business users that they could write full applications with databases and forms and things like that until they made such a mess of it, they couldn't get anything working anymore. Then they find an engineer and go, here, catch, and ask them to deal with it. Which of course resulted in a rewrite and so forth. And then after that it was low code, no code, same story. And now it's vibe coding. Now each of these do get successfully a little easier for the business user, which just makes it easier for them to also get in trouble because software testing is a thing, an important thing if you're going to get into production. Where we are today, I do believe it's possible for a business user to create things that go into production if you really scope it very, very hard, frankly almost so hard that it's not worth it. But I believe a business user could say something like, let's say we're doing a commercial fleet. Don't insure a vehicle worth more than this much. That's a simple enough rule that plain English can translate into something I think you could put into production, and also the AI could tell you, yes, I'm very, very certain I understood that. But we're still at kind of a baby talk kind of level in terms of what they're able to do safely. That window will expand. I think it's going to expand, I was going to say frustratingly slowly, but only frustratingly slowly compared to how fast all of their AI is moving right now.
Okay, and what you're describing doesn't sound that different to me than the way core systems have been evolving over the last few decades, where we're building more tools that potential business users can use to change rules and rates, but within a very confined, boxed area where you know they're not breaking something larger. And so are you saying something similar to that, but AI will help make those adjustments within a larger system?
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that you could call it like it's a confined box. You've just expanded the box by one. So now, before you could say, I can insure vehicles up to blank, type in the blank. But now it could have an arbitrary rule up to this value or this many miles. It could be a rule, a type of parameter that hadn't been considered.
So we're expanding, right? I think that makes sense. So we're expanding the level.
Semantic expansion.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I guess I would call it.
Great. Well, I want to now go back to something you said earlier about bolting on AI to solutions, and I've heard a lot of discussion. I was in a roundtable yesterday where we were talking about this. And so one of the questions that keeps coming up, and I'd like your thoughts on, is there's kind of two points of view here. One point of view is that AI is going to help us revitalize our legacy systems. We'll be able to get more from older systems without having to replace them because AI will make it easier to understand, kind of get our fingers into them. And then the other is it's going to pressure us to replace our legacy systems faster because otherwise we won't be able to take enough advantage of AI. And so I'd like to hear where you come on that.
I think this is going to be the biggest discussion or battle of the IT architecture over the next 5+ years. There are a lot of people motivated to tell you that they can slap AI onto your legacy core. There are those, I'm one of them, who would be incentivized to say, that's not going to work, you need a new core. I just, in full disclosure. But everyone's got an incentive here. The legacy providers who were on-prem 100% just a few years ago, who magically call themselves cloud now, I call it legacy as a service, of course they want to say, you can continue to use us and you can modernize it, look, you can shine it up with AI. And then there's a whole bunch of startups that haven't done the hard work of building a core and have built some kind of user interface that are out there saying, oh, we can connect this to your legacy. It comes down to two things. One, how hard is it to actually do that connection, make it safe? Legacy does not have well-documented APIs and so forth to connect it to. I mean, I say a lot. It's really almost all of it. But secondly, you're still limited by, okay, if that legacy system goes down, you still have the newer portal can't talk to it. If it needs to call an API, the API just doesn't exist. Also, whenever you want to make any change whatsoever, you want to launch a new product, you want to take an existing product into a new geography, you need a new distribution channel, any of those sorts of things, these are necessarily going to require some kind of changes to that legacy core. So there's a kind of a myth that AI can just attach to anything. It's not entirely untrue. It can do something. If nothing else, even if you have legacy and it has a front end that's hard-coded to it, the AI could synthesize a user, click, click, click. Is that integration? I mean, yes, it is. I can't say, no, it's not. Do you want it? Absolutely not. But there's a handful of things that software needs if it's going to communicate well with AI. For example, or work with AI generally for development, if you want to see AI used successfully in an organization. Modularity for one, and now everyone claims to be modular because, well, first off, if you're customizing your software, everything's modular because you can just go into it yourself and make all the changes you want. That's amateur. A modern software does not expose its source code. No, but I get asked sometimes what language is Socotra written in. I'm like, does anyone ask Salesforce what's written in? Does anyone ask, Snowflake what's written in? All you need to understand is like, are they RESTful interfaces with JSON payloads, and how do I create plugins and these sorts of things that are completely external to the language it's written in. But when I say modular, what I mean is, can you separate are the communications between the components of the platform publicly documented so that anyone can separate them out while keeping them whole? Because the problem is, you can do anything with customization. In fact, the most flexible software in the world is a compiler. You just start from zero, you can write anything. That's literally what vibe coding is doing. But if you have a large code base and you just take some AI and throw it the keys to the kingdom, it can make a fantastic mess. It does not necessarily stay contained where you want the changes. If you have high modularity, like plug-in infrastructures and so forth, then the AI has a box. So it's balkanized. You also need, as I alluded to, documentation. That's important. And documentation isn't just having a reference guide on your website. I've seen a few of the older platforms now have a reference guide. The question is, could a talented engineer deploy this software using the documentation on the website? Just like give me an eval license and let me try it out. You can do it with Salesforce, you can do it with Snowflake, you can do it with Oracle, you can do it with any Microsoft product, any Google product. You can't do it with a whole lot of core software. And there might be some kind of some documentation that you can reference once you've gone through a month or two of training, but it doesn't help AI because the AI is not going to go to your training workshop. The AI only has the documentation. So it turns out the practices that engineers loved all along are absolutely essential for AI. So those are some of the things, and there's a lot more. MCP servers. And don't just look for a press release saying, yes, we have MCP servers. Look for find the documentation. If it's not documented, it doesn't exist. Anyone can vibe code anything these days. So insurers really need to look carefully, like, is this real?
So one of the most expensive and painful processes for an insurer technologically is migrating off of an old system onto a new system, to the point where many insurers really will bring in a new system and their old system won't get decommissioned for maybe another decade because the transition takes a long time. Is AI going to help with that process, with the process of choosing a new system, figuring out what's right for your organization, and getting it live?
I'm hearing more and more that people contacted us because they asked ChatGPT, like, what core system should I look at? And we get, I want something that's modern. And yeah, I mean, search for, modern cloud policy administration system. We're like, you don't even remember our website. Just remember to put that into ChatGPT. That'll take you there. But so that is happening more and more for selection. For getting data out, of course, it can. There's a lot I can do in transform. I don't think we have time to get into a great deal there. But it certainly is accelerating data transformation and so forth. But you still have to deal with the legacy. If an engineer has trouble getting data out, AI is going to have a hard time getting data out. But that's also something people don't think about when they buy their systems. Can I get data out of this thing in the future? I wish more people would have asked that question in the past, because we're doing a lot of migrations and we're dealing with a lot of systems that are really, really hard to get data out of. And if you want to connect to a Snowflake or Databricks, So help you. It's very, very difficult when you're dealing with midnight batch jobs and things like that. And AI really needs real-time accurate data if you're going to ask it questions and get accurate answers.
Well, thank you so much. I think we're out of time. And any last words you want to say before we go? I asked you the next 3 to 5 years of AI. What is the next decade plus of AI?
I have 1 second. It's going to be an exciting time. It's going to move faster than you think. And yeah, happy to chat with folks about it. But I'll relinquish our time.
Thank you so much.